Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karuna Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidyanam. So today is our last session, and we are going to be exploring essay number 13 called Peacefully Remaining on page 99 by a Buddhist Lama. Now, this chapter, this particular essay is nice because it gives us a chance to culminate all of the things that we've been talking about in the past 11 weeks. He starts the essay with an old woman who came to Buddha and said, "How can I meditate? How is it that I can meditate?" And he said, "Just focus on your action. When you are drawing water from the well, just be focused on it." Now, meditation nowadays has taken such varied meanings, and there are even apps that help us to meditate. There's like a Calm app, or there's like a Headspace app, and there's all kinds of things about meditation. But what really is it? See, meditation comes in two parts. The first part is called preparing the mind. That part of preparing the mind, that's where mindfulness comes in. The second part is called transcending the mind, and that's where mindlessness comes in. So most of the meditation techniques that we see that are practiced all over focus on just level 1, which is preparing the mind. And very much of what we're going to do today is also talk about that, because the second part, transcending the mind, is a little deeper. And that can only be done when the mind is prepared fully. Many times we all want to go into these deep meditative states. But what happens is the mind isn't prepared. It's just like anything. We can't do anything well without preparation. We can't just dive into anything. In the same way, meditation is not something we can just dive into. It's something that takes a lot of steps to make sure we're in the right frame of mind. Now, before we explore this mindfulness concept, how to practice it, why it's beneficial, first let's explore the 5 states of mind. Because if we first see where our mind is, then we know where mindfulness lies. And we know what it is in our Shastra. So in our Yoga Sutras, there are 5 states of mind. Now the first state of mind is called Kshipta. Kshipta means that mind which is highly distracted. That mind which cannot focus. It's always going here, there, everywhere. It's that mind where whenever there's a silent pause, it wants to talk. It wants to make noise. It's that mind where when the computer is waiting, it's loading. Let me see what I can do in the 2 minutes that the computer is loading. That mind where when we see our Google Calendar and there's empty space, we want to fill it. What else is going to happen? What else is going to happen? Because it feels like it needs to be fed again and again and again and again. And it needs the stimulation. And it's that mind where it becomes a little hard to focus. They focused on one thing for a couple of minutes and then they get bored. And then they want to move somewhere else. And then they want to move somewhere else. It's that kind of mind, which is easily distracted. Easily distracted. They're in the middle of something and the phone, WhatsApp alarm or alert rings or beeps. And they look at that and then they forget completely what's happening. This is all of our minds, right? Kshipta. And it's so funny because before, back in the day, Puja Gurudev, his yajnas, his talks would go on for 100 days and an hour and a half each. And people would sit and it would be so easy for them to absorb. And now, Puja Guruji, when he used to do his yajnas, they would be 7 days, 8 days, an hour and 20 minutes each. And then he would say, let's sing the name of God, because so everyone's mind can just revel in Bhagavan. But now, people just want 3 days, 30 minutes each, and we're done. That's all we can take. It's just too much. It's too much, right? And we feel that. It's because the mind it's lessened its capacity. It has. And that's just the way things are. And so now we are just so easily distracted. So these practices that we'll talk about will help us to practice being mindful. So the first state of mind is kshipta. That's easily understood, I think. Second is buddha. Buddha is what we call stupor or spaced out kind of mind. It's that kind of mind when, someone's talking to you and you completely blank out. You're like, what did you say? Like completely just blank out. It just went over the head. Just totally blanked out. It's that blanked out mind that it gives one also a sense of like peace because their mind is blanked out. And many times, people want to take things, substances that blank their minds out because they just don't want to deal with their minds. So Buddha is what you call when you're just spaced out. You just lost. My brain went dead for a second. I don't know what I just went dead, right? So sometimes that happens to our mind. The third state is called vikshipta. Vikshipta means occasionally distracted. This is where a lot of times our mind is. We can focus for a certain point in time and then occasionally we get distracted by sound, by somebody walking, by something even from inside. Oops, I forgot to do that. I'm in the middle of a lecture and I'm listening, but oops, oh my gosh, I have to send this email or I have to do this thing. From inside it comes and occasionally we get distracted. So this kind of mind also is okay, but it's not optimal. The fourth kind of state of mind is called ekagra. And this ekagra means one point that is called mindfulness. So that mindfulness word, it's coined, everybody knows it. But what is it in our Shastra? Surely it's there in our Shastra. And in our Shastra, it is called ekagra. Ekagra. What does that mean? It means that my mind, my body are in the same place at the exact same time. The same place at the exact same time. Because many times what happens, our body is here, but our mind could be thousands of miles away, right? So there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between my mind and my body. There's a gap there. And so I'm not able to be mindful of what's happening because there's a huge gap. So although my body feels like it's here, my mind is somewhere else. So when the mind, the body, same place, they're in the same place, the exact same time, that is called mindfulness. What happens when the mind and body are in the same place at the same time? What happens is totally the thoughts can go in one direction, in one aim. And one is completely focused in what they're doing. That is called mindfulness. There's a complete alertness in what we're doing. Now, why would one want to be in this state? Why? Because in this state of mindfulness, when I'm completely aware and alert of what I'm doing, I function at maximum efficiency. I am the most efficient that I could ever be. It's not that we don't have enough time in the day. That's really not the issue. It's not that we have too many things to do. That's really not the issue. The issue is, are we being efficient enough? Are we, because if you and I just do one thing at a time and do it well, we're done. We're absolutely done. But what's happening is we do one thing, but we don't do it well. So we have to revisit it. Then we have to fix it. Then we have to redo it and then go to the next thing. Then we don't do that next thing well. Then we have to revisit it, then redo it, and then go to the next thing. This is what's happening with our life. We're not, when was the last time we started and completed something completely? In one shot. We can't remember. We're in the middle of the kitchen doing something and then we start something else. Then we're in the middle of doing something and then we start something else. And then we're in the middle of doing something and then we start something else. So what happens is we feel like the quantity of work we put out is great because we're doing so many things. But guess what? Life is not about quantity. It's about quality. That's really what matters. You can sit with somebody you love for 5 hours, but if that quality time, if it wasn't quality time, then what's the point of that time? But you can sit with someone you love for 2 minutes and make such a huge difference if enough quality was given. So the purpose of being mindful, one is that there is maximum efficiency in what I do. The second point is why? It's because it allows me to save resources. I don't need to use so many things to do one thing. A very basic example, which we would have all gone through. We don't need to use so much water to wash dishes. We just don't. We really don't. It just, there's a way you do it, wherein you wash all your dishes, turn the water off, put the soap on, get a bucket, rinse it out, and then you do a final rinse and you're done. We don't need to use so much resources. But because we're not mindful, we just tend to use so much. When we are eating without being mindful, what happens is we eat too much or we eat too less, or we're standing when we're eating and we don't even feel like we ate, and then after 2 hours we're so hungry again. All of these things happen and we just waste all the resources that we have. So being mindful means not only do I become more efficient, but I become more conscious of the way that I live. And this is the second point. I become more conscious of the way that I live. I don't need to use so many things. We just don't. And I really, finding that out, that we just don't need. I mean, in this COVID experience, I think I've come to realize how much less I can live without. I really can live without so many things. It's just easy, right? So that's the second point. The third point is when we're mindful, which she also mentions here, is that it diffuses our negativity. What does this mean, diffusing our negativity? The third point is, you see, when we're interacting with other people, when we are not mindful, we tend to read things in a wrong way. We tend to not think about things deeply. A very basic example, somebody sends you a text message, all caps lock. Then immediately you're like, what is this? Why did you send me this message? Who do you think you are? And you just want to reply. But that's just coming, but just wait for a second. Wait for a second. We look at that and we just automatically judge everything. But when we become mindful, we don't just look at the text message. We look at the person that's sending it. We look at the time of the day. We look at maybe what that person could be going through. We look at, okay, maybe is there something also I said? When we are more mindful in our behavior, we stop. We stop and we say, okay, what happened there? And then let me respond appropriately. Now this 2-minute gap, I tell you, this 2-minute gap of like, stop. Let's just think of what's happening with that person right now. Will save us a lot of trouble. Immense trouble. It's the 2-minute gap. That's all it is. That's all it is. If that 2-minute gap we don't take, what happens? There's a text battle. Then this, and then what you said, and then, oh my goodness. Or there's an email battle. Or there's a phone battle. There's so many things that happen. But if this 2-minute mindful stop gap was there, then I understand. That's all. And wait for the person to respond. Wait, right? They could be so busy, they could be here and there. Wait till we can have an actual conversation. That's all. So in that way, it diffuses negativity. Because not everyone is going to respond right away. Not everyone is going to respond the way we want them to respond. Not everyone is going to be able to be there the way we need them to be there. But it just takes that time to understand. That's all. That's all. And that comes when we're more mindful. The next point is, why be mindful? So he says here also that it helps settle the fragmented aspects of ourselves. Because you've seen this battle, I've seen this battle. We have our higher self and our lower self talking to each other all the time. And we should be doing something a certain way, but then there's a part of us, which is like our mind, which tells us, no, you should do something another way. No, why would you do it? No, why don't you just relax? No, there's a part of us that kind of just veers us off from the path. So when we start becoming mindful of who we are, we're able to integrate these two parts. We're able to integrate it and say, this is exactly what I want to do and what I need to do now, and do it. Because a lot of times there is this inner battle. And we talked about it last week also. So it helps us to come into one point of mind. So this is why mindfulness helps a lot. One more point that he also says is it helps bring out our essential goodness. It helps bring us closer to who we are really, because we find such peace in this experience. Now, mindfulness, as I said, is preparing the mind. So imagine the first stage of mind, distracted, one cannot even attempt to touch meditation. The second state of mind, where one is spaced out, failure. You can't touch it. You can't touch meditation. The third stage of mind, where it's occasionally distracted, we can start. And then we have to get to this point where we are mindful. Now, I had said there are 5 states of mind. So is this where we stop? Is this the highest functioning of the mind? The 5th stage, which I had said is transcending the mind, it's called niruddha. Niruddha means that stage where now we become mindless. That stage where now we are able to transcend the mind. So after being mindful for some time, what exactly happens? When we become mindful for some time and our thoughts are focused for all of those reasons that I've told you, we become absorbed in that very thought as though we lose ourselves. That focus turns into absorption. And it is like when someone's painting, they get lost in the painting. They don't even feel that they're painting anymore. There is no effort. In that mindfulness, there's effort to keep everything in a single pointed direction, to make sure that I'm focused. In this mindlessness, it's just happening. It's just happening. We cannot make it happen. It just takes over us. When that singer, you would have seen in a concert, the singer gets lost in the song. They're just absorbed. They don't know awareness of what's happening in this atmosphere, but they're just absorbed in it completely. When someone goes deeply into preparing the mind, making it single pointed, at some point they are able to transcend the mind. That is the peak. In that peak, whether our eyes are closed or our eyes are open, what is happening is it's like that positivity is just taking over us. It's just like things are happening. It's just like we're being moved and we don't even know how, when, why, but effortlessly, it's just coming out. It's just coming out. This is called niruddha. And most of you will have noticed some moments where we had this sense of self-forgetfulness. It could have been a slight moment where you just forgot. You just forgot. And sometimes I feel like the keyboard is just moving. I don't even feel like it's just moving. It's just moving. I don't even know what's happening. But sometimes you would have felt like that also. It happens after immense focus. Things will just happen. And that is also, when we're when we are actively engaging in the world, that's really when Bhagavan works through you. God works through you. It's just because your ego is so sublimated that it's like Bhagavan works through you. So these are the 5 states. So where do we want to be? We want to be number 4 and 5. Most of the time, at least, we want to be number 4 and 5 because that's where we are our best selves. We are our best selves. We are able to contribute maximum, and we are able to be at peace with ourselves. Now, how can we remain in 4 and 5? How can we peacefully remain in 4 and 5? So he has given here in this essay a few words which are bring your mind home, release, and relax. Now, I'm going to juxtapose that with our teachings in Sanatana Dharma. So that way everything comes into one full picture. When he says bring your mind home, release, and relax, this can be summed up to our 5 practices that we all know of, but here I will just bring it to light so that we can understand it fully. The first practice is called introspection. Now, in introspection, we've thought about this and talked about this also before, but a couple of points I want to bring to mind. One is that this is a deep cleansing toxic. It deep cleanses all your toxins. It cleans you out. You know how like sometimes we have to do laundry. Well, we have to do laundry every week or twice a week or whatever. Or we have to wash our dishes. We have to take a shower. We have to just clean stuff out. We have to clean our homes, right? Cleaning our minds is also essential. And sometimes we don't realize it, but we need to do it. That meeting with ourselves, wherein we analyze deeply what's going on, what's happening, where am I at? Am I really where I want to be? Just stop. Just stop. Just have that conversation with yourself. Is there something that I feel like I need to clean up? Is there something that is negativity that's sparking? Do I need to filter out? Is there something that I need to fix in my daily routine? Just have that conversation with yourself. That is key. Because if I'm not feeling clean inside, I'm not feeling good, I'm not feeling at peace, I can't really do much outside. I need to know who I am. I need to know what I'm about. And this introspective practice will help us do that. And it doesn't have to be in your room, in your bed, or you could do it while walking. A lot of times I do it while walking without any headphones or whatever. Just figure out where you are, figure out where I am, and see what that's like. That can help us immensely, immensely. I would say that that's one of the most important spiritual practices. Because I tell you, if we're not clean, when we sit and meditate, we will be disturbed. Why did I say this? Why did I not do this? All of these kinds of things will come up. And we don't want that to come up. That's why we're preparing the ground. So the first is introspection, to clean ourselves up. The second one is called just breathing. It's just breathing. That's all. This is a practice that can help us when we feel overwhelmed. There are some days where we just like, so much is going on. So much is happening. Stop. Just breathe. That's all. Just breathe. Take a moment to just focus on your breath. From you're inhaling from your stomach to your chest to your throat, and from your throat to your chest to your stomach. Just breathe. And do a body scan. Bring your awareness from your feet to your thighs to your legs, like what we did in Virtues Over Virus, from your feet all the way to your head. Maybe some days I can't spend 10 minutes sitting down quietly. It's okay, spend 2. Spend 2. All I want you to do is a body scan and just breathe. This will help us immensely when we feel like overwhelmed, especially when we're in the middle of a crowd or where we're somewhere else and we cannot sit down quietly. Just spend time breathing. That's okay. Just pause. You don't have to keep going and going and going and going. We have to keep pausing and analyzing where we're going. The third one is a practice that all of you have known, is japa. And that japa is a very beautiful practice because when we breathe and we focus on our breath, what it happens also is the quantity of our thoughts are decreased. It helps us decrease the quantity of our thoughts. So we're moving in a slower pace, which is very helpful. When we do japa, we not only decrease the quality of thoughts, the quantity of thoughts, but we increase the quality of thoughts. So we decrease the quantity of thoughts and we increase the quality of thoughts. Because what happens in japa, when we repeat a sacred mantra, we're only thinking of that one thought and one thought alone. Are supposed to be thinking of one thought and one thought alone. But in addition, that mantra brings about a divine quality. So whether it's Om Namah Shivaya or Om Shri Saraswatiyai Namaha, divinity or divine thoughts are entering my mind. So with breathing, yes, my mind is slowing down. With japa, my mind is slowing down and becoming more divine because it's attracting that divine energy of that mantra, whatever that mantra is. That's why we say everyone should have an ishta, a form of Bhagavan they revere. So this is the third practice. The fourth one is dhyana. Now in this dhyana, right, what happens is there, some point after the japa, the mind becomes quiet. And this is what we should do after japa. Pause for a few moments and let the mind do the japa. We don't have to keep speaking the japa. Let the mind do the japa. What happens is it becomes more subtle. So the quantity of thoughts are decreasing, the quality is increasing, but not only that, the direction is going inward. It's going inward. It's becoming more and more subtle. From the speech, now it's coming to a manasik level, the mind. That is dhyana. So you see what's happening to these practices with japa, with dhyana. It's becoming more and more and more inward. Now what do you do after that? Now is a deeper stage of dhyana, the fifth one, wherein now you're not focusing on that thought anymore, whether that thought is in the form of a word, is in the form of an image of God or goddess, or whether that thought is the quality of God or goddess. In the fifth stage now, we're focusing on the origin of that thought. Where is that thought coming from? What is that which is the substratum of all thoughts, from which all thoughts rise, into which all thoughts set? That is pure consciousness. So now, not only are we decreasing the quantity, increasing the quality, but we are going to the innermost self, to the origin of thought. And when we go deep enough, then we are able to transcend that mind. But you see now, to get to that fifth, how much preparation had to be done? A lot. So peacefully remaining means spending enough time in my preparation. Because the fifth stage, it just happens on its own. It happens on its own. You go to the origin of the thought, that's pure awareness, and I am that pure awareness. It will come on its own. You and I have to work on stages 1 to 4 diligently and practice these daily. Introspect daily. Not a day should go by without me meeting myself. Breathe, that we do daily anyway, but start the practice with breathing. Start the practice. It's a whole, meditation, we prepare so much when we invite someone to dinner, Invite now, COVID, you're inviting someone to dinner. How much you prepare? First, let me serve you the appetizers. And then this is like a mocktail. And then, like their ambiance. Then after that, let me give you this dish. First, you should have this dish. Then you should have this dish. And then at the end, you should have dessert. And then only you can really relish the whole dinner. Isn't it? So much preparation goes into dinner. But meditation, we feel like we'll sit, Om Namah Shivaya, and that's it. No way! It doesn't work. Well, first you prepare by breathing. Then you prepare by japa. Then you slowly go into dhyana. Like how much preparation you're doing for a dinner meal, at least that much preparation we should put for sitting quietly. It's not something you can just come in and out of. Also, after eating a meal, you're full, you cannot just walk up. You need to sit for a while, rest your stomach. Also, after sitting down quietly, you cannot just get up. Right? It's just slowly rise. It's a practice. It's not only a practice, but it's a divine practice. And that's how to peacefully remain. I'm telling you, it helps a lot. It really, really does. But you'll have to see for yourself. And when we do it with the proper steps, give it the proper time, it works like magic. But we have to see its importance. The craziest thing we hear is, I don't have time to sit quietly. When we sit quietly, we become so much more efficient that you realize that you can do so many things in so little time. So that I don't have time to sit quietly does not make sense. Because in sitting quietly for 10 minutes makes you 60% more efficient. It does. Because you're thinking so much more clearly. It's an investment. So think about it, and may we all peacefully remain. Today, I know I went a little bit over because there's so much in this topic that I wanted to cover, and I also wanted to make sure that everyone has those tips. We may not have enough time for discussion, but we can have a debrief here together. I will also have to leave around 9:50 because we have our Balavi, our graduation in Queens, Long Island today, virtually. So at this point, if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and unmute and you can ask your questions. Or if you feel that you would like to type it in chat, you can go ahead and do that also. Shouldn't introspection follow step 5 automatically? Why is introspection only step 1? Why not step 1 and then step 6? So introspection can be done anytime. But here's the thing, right? Sometimes what happens, why I say step 1, because what tends to happen when we sit quietly is introspection happens, right? Introspection happens. But introspection is different from contemplation. And sometimes people don't know the difference. So sometimes when I'm sitting down for contemplation, I'm supposed to contemplate on God, but I end up introspecting. You see, this is what I end up, which is also good, You know, I end up introspecting on my day, on what to do, etc. But we should set aside time for introspection and for contemplation because they're two different functionalities. So introspection, it can be done in the morning or in the evening. Gurudev says to do in the evening. Set aside a time for that. And contemplation, set aside for that. Because when I'm contemplating, then it should just be on that self and that self alone. No, it shouldn't be now on anything else. So what happens if that introspection is not full? I'll end up introspecting on myself and thinking that I'm meditating, which I'm actually not doing. This happens a lot, right? It's different functionalities of the mind. Just because we're sitting quietly doesn't mean we're meditating. It doesn't, clearly. And so many people will say, yeah, I meditate every day and this and that. I hesitate to ask them what happens when you, because, you know, it's used so generally, right? So it's a much deeper thing. It's really a much deeper thing. Okay. The last step in meditation is when ego dissolves. Yes. So what happens in the last stage, right? When we go to the origin of thought, we become thoughtless. That ego actually dissolves. It dissolves because when you trace the thought to the origin of the thought, it's that example like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gives, that salt doll merges into the ocean, right? So that very, very, very thinker merges into that origin of the thought. It merges into that. Well, the ego completely dissolves then. And that's something that just happens. We can't force anything. What we need to work on is really that mindful stage, that stage of learning to be focused in the littlest things. I tell you, if that's something that we can achieve, that's a great achievement. Really, really great achievement because it can carry on in so many different aspects of our life. Stop yourself. When there's that 2-minute gap where while waiting for something, you want to do something else, just stop yourself. Just stop. Just wait. Just wait. Let the mind be. Learn to just let the mind be. When ego is the barrier to step one, how to tackle it? So Manisha, can you give me a little bit more details about that? Or
Shubhani, can I speak or should I type?
you can speak, please speak.
So what if there is ego, which is a barrier to even going into introspection, because introspection is asking very tough questions to self. If that becomes the barrier, then I cannot get to the state of meditation ever, because I will falsely convince myself that there is really no need for growth.
So, we have to learn how to be objective with ourselves. And, and this ties into Prashant's question also. How to have that objective reflection. One is to see yourself as a third person. You see, when you introspect as, let's say I introspect as Shubhani, I can be very biased, right? Sometimes I can be too hard, sometimes I can be too soft. But you see yourself as a third person. Like, okay, this is Shubhani, now how is she doing things, right? When you look at yourself as a third person, then it becomes easier. So this is okay, but this needs to be worked on. This is okay, this needs to be worked on. It becomes easier because you're seeing. It's as though you're seeing another person. And you're keeping a distance between yourself and that person. So then it doesn't just become self-validation. It becomes a little bit more objective. Every time we want to be objective about something, we have to distance ourselves. And we all know that, right? When we're in and through any situation, we're trying to be objective, it's not going to happen. You have to step back, look at the whole thing, and then be objective. So detach yourself from the person. Because that person it's not you. Remember, it's not you. But we need to make that person a very, very cool, amazing person. And then only go beyond the person. Then only it works. How to transition from vikshipta to ekagra, and what if there are slips from time to time? So how to transition from vikshipta to ekagra is like this. Be more alert about what we're doing. Yes, sometimes we get distracted easily, and we get back to place, and we get distracted and get back to place. One habit we have to fix is to be alert about what we're doing, and when we see ourselves getting distracted, pull ourselves back right away. Get the habit of pulling ourselves back right away. There will be slips, but bounce back. It's like when you do japa. There will be slips that your mind is contemplating on the mantra, but then there will be slips that, it went somewhere else. It's here and then it went somewhere else. Learn the art of bringing back the mind. It's like that a sport. When the ball is in the other court, you got to get it back to your court. That's all you have to do. Just get the ball back to your court, and keep it with you. And when you keep the ball with you and it's in your court, you score. So just like how we play any sport, we have to make that mind a sport. We're taking that mind back a sport. It's just like a sport. And eventually it gets used to coming back. It gets used to staying here. Those of you who are doing japa, you will see maybe in the first stages of japa, to go through 108 beads must have been very difficult. At least for me, it was very difficult because where and when the mind didn't go, it went everywhere. But as practice happens, it becomes easier. And slips will happen, but just keep bringing it back. Okay, one last question, then I will have to go. Introspection brings up a lot of inner conflicts. When that happens, without understanding what is right, versus wrong or dharmic action, it causes more confusion. As Manisha said, ego may settle down with justification of what is right and stuck. So, firstly, yes, we have to understand what is right. That's the first process. And for that, we have our scriptures. And for that also, I had mentioned to many to keep in mind what is Shreyas. What is right very easily? What is taking me towards the goal of self-evolution? What is right is what is that? Anything that's taking me towards the goal of self-evolution, benefiting maximum people, that is the right thing to do. When I become very clear about that and convinced about that, then it becomes easy to feel. So one is that knowledge of that dharma, and then being able to stick to that dharma. Dharma is a very, very important concept. I have maybe a minute or so, then I will have to go. But I will just take this opportunity to thank all of you for really being consistent and attending these lessons, and for giving me an opportunity to revel in peace. So I really thank you, and I hope that we meet again in another class. Possibly in the fall, we will explore Dharma and Mahabharata and then go into Bhagavad Gita, possibly. So I will keep you all posted. So thank you. And if you feel the need to ask anything else, please just do email me or reach out to me, and I will do whatever I can to help. And if you would like to offer Guru Dakshina, you can do so at our website. And I had asked for all of our Guru Dakshina to go towards COVID relief efforts for New York City. So that's only if, because I know everyone's going through their own times. So thank you so much, and I'll just say a short prayer. And thank you to Sahana for monitoring these and posting the videos. And it's very early in the morning for her. She's in California, so I really appreciate that, Sahana. We'll just say a closing prayer. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om. And if you feel the need to listen to anything again, it's in YouTube, and Manisha is taking notes, so she'll share that with us shortly. Hari Om. Hari Om.